Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Davis. I wanted to do just a quick little guitar lesson thing, and this is super easy, almost self-explanatory, but before I kind of knew what all my chords were and what they were made up of and how chords moved and everything, I just played around with chords to make them sound a little more interesting. And one of the ways to do that is just to take the shapes that you already know and move them around and see if they sound good or if they don't sound good. So like one of my favorite things to do that I still do to this day all the time is if you just take a regular C chord and you just move the whole thing up 2 frets, you get this really gorgeous voicing. And voicing is basically a really fancy, like, musical college term for how notes are specifically arranged in a chord. So the fact that each of these notes are arranged a certain way together is referred to as a voicing. You could do the same thing with G. If you already know, like, sometimes you can play G with your ring finger right here, not right here. You play around with how those different things sound. So that's a pretty thick sound. Kind of sounds better with the ring finger on it, I think. And then also for this one, I'm deadening the A string with my middle finger, which is a technique I can talk about in a different lesson. Do the same thing, A minor. And then with D. And the practical application of this is, let's say you have a chord progression where you're playing C, and then you're playing A minor. You can kind of just spice it up. Let's say you don't want to move the whole chord. You can still use the idea of moving things, but just choose one finger to move. So let's just work with C. So let's say that I move this note up 2 frets. It's just one note different, but it still has a different color. And then let's say this open string on top, let's move that one up 2 frets. Again, just one note different, but totally different color. And what I mean by color is the emotional impression that you feel when you hear a chord. Different chords and different voicings might have different colors. And then one thing that I might do is I might take that C chord and listen to how it sounds with that new, just the top notes changing. Oop. And then take that idea and maybe do like a finger picking thing. Something like that. And this works for any chord you're on. So right here on G, you can kind of listen to how that sounds. So sometimes if you ever see me doing like kind of far out voicings, like stuff like this, is just I started on a chord you might know, and then kind of one at a time I might change these notes. Ooh, that's nice. Like stuff like that. Gorgeous sound. Now I just have to practice it, get it under my fingers. But that's the idea, is I'm really just thinking about G, and then I'm thinking about how I can kind of add some different notes in there to give it some color. And then you can change the bass note, and it'll give you a totally different feeling. But yeah, so if you find yourself, you know, wishing that you knew more chords, instead of learning brand new chords from scratch, just take some of the chords that you already know and either move that whole chord around the neck, find a spot where it sounds good, or just move each individual little notes within that chord and see if it'll give you a completely different sound, which I think it will. And then the other thing that you can do is keep the chord the same on top and move the bass note. Now I understand this is kind of a stretch, so not everyone might be able to do this, but that same idea, like if I take out this note, then anybody can probably do this. But yeah, that's the idea. Honestly, like, music is so simple. All of the super complicated things can be broken down into little simple things. Yeah, have fun with it. Start with something simple and then expand from there, and your music will sound amazing.